Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do the most anticipated video on my channel, Jack Skellington. So this guy's big, as you all know. It's very long, he's very skinny. This guy measures at 20 inches tall, 7 inches wide. He is super duper easy. I will make sure that this is a beginner friendly video. Everything is crocheted on. He's all one piece, other than the bat. I sewed him on. Oh, and I sewed his chest on. Other than that, and his face. I sewed his face on. Anyway. Let's jump right into this. So if you follow me on my Facebook page, I had posted him and I'd asked if there was anything wrong or his hands too big or whatever, and y'all said no, he was absolutely perfect. Well, I don't think he is. So I made his hands smaller. So his hands are a lot smaller. Turn it over to this way. And his thumb is smaller. So I did change him. That's about all I did to change him. So for the fingers, which we're going to start with, I used a 3mm hook, and the hook comes up as a D on some charts, but a D is a 3.125 or something like that. So a D hook. I don't think the 0.125 really makes a huge big deal. So that's what I'm using for the fingers. For the rest of them, I'm using a 4mm. Now my yarn does call for something a lot bigger than a 4mm, but we're doing this in amigurumi, so we're going to go down in hook size for whatever our yarn calls for. So my black yarn calls for a 5.5. It's pretty chunky. It's that red heart. Great big balls you can get at Walmart. So it calls for a 5.5. So I still used a 4. So it's nice and tight. You're not seeing any stuffing through this at all whatsoever. And that is what we want. This is Jack Skellington. We cannot screw this guy up. The hand itself is done all with a 3. But then I switch to a 4 when I do his arm. So this whole thing is done with a 3. So we are going to be switching, and excuse me, because it is so tight, the weave, you don't really need wires in the fingers if you want to shape his fingers, because it's so tight that you can just do that. You can just shape his fingers, and they'll stay for a short time. I mean, eventually they bounce back, but so let's stop blabbering and get right into this guy. First we're going to do the fingers, and then we're going to sew the fingers together with these little guys, fingers and thumbs, and then we start crocheting. So it is super easy. If you've never done anything like this before, don't let this freak you out. I'm a pretty good teacher and I'll walk you through every single step. The background I chose for this is red. This white is a red heart. Comes in the great big balls, just like the black. But this is just a 4-weight. It's not worsted or anything. It's just a 4-weight. So we're going to start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. So if you don't know how to make a magic ring, you can just do a chain 2 and then put everything in that first chain to make your life easy. Or you can try the magic ring. So wrap it around these 2 fingers, come across and grab it with your pinky. So you're going to go up and grab this guy. You're going to pull him through, and at the same time we're kind of going to flip it around. Give her a spin, and then pick up this and pull it through. That's a magic ring. It's super duper easy to do it that way, and you've already got your chain 1, so you're ready to go. Now the tricky part is, how do you hold it to put the 6 single crochets in there? Well, that's just something you're going to have to get used to. It's not something that can be really taught. So that's my 6 single crochets. We're keeping it 6 single crochets. We're not going any bigger than 6 single crochets. We're going to do 10 rows. So we don't slip stitch with amigurumi. We don't chain one. We don't do any of that. You go right into your first stitch, which can be a little tricky. It's a little tight. And that's where your stitch marker is going to go, is your first stitch. So that has to be counted. And I mean, if you're an avid crocheter, you don't even need, you could just count 60. Count to 60 and you're done. But if you're not familiar with where your stitches are, you're going to probably want to use the marker. And that's my 6. And you're going to do this, well, for 10 rows altogether, we just did 1. So you're going to do 9 more rows. As far as this guy is concerned, just so he's not super annoying, you can tie this in a knot. Pull him tight so that's closed. And then tie the knot. You can sew this in, but it's not necessary. And then snip off a little piece. So for the next 10 rows, 9 more, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. I will put up my pause screen and I will see you on the other side. So that is my 10 rows all together. That went super fast. I don't move my marker every time, as I demonstrated. So I did put a little bit of stuffing in here. Even though this is tight, you still want to be able to move it, and it kind of stayed like there for a while, so it's easy to stuff. You just need a little bit of stuffing. You're just going to take your little handle and you're going to just shove it down there. So it's not all the way down, it's no big deal. You just want a little bit. You don't want to stuff this huge. Anyway, you got to make 3 more fingers, or 2 more fingers. You need 3 fingers all together. So I'm going to get you to fasten off with this one. And then go ahead, I'll put my pattern up on the screen and go ahead and make 2 more fingers. You just need a little bit of a sewing tail. And I will meet you right back here to get the thumb done. Alrighty, so for the thumb it's the exact same thing, but you're not doing 10 rows, you're doing 6 rows. So make a slip knot, or a magic ring. Put 6 single crochets in here. And like I said, it's the exact same thing, but you're going to do 6 rows of 6 single crochets, or count to 36. So before you start, again, you can just take care of this business so it's not super annoying. So this is my thumb all done. And again, I'm just going to put a little bit of stuffing. So, I know I said make 3 more fingers, but hopefully you read the pause screen and it said make 6 fingers. So you should have 6 fingers because we're doing 2 hands, right? So you should have 6 fingers. I've already made my one, so I only have 3. You should have 6 fingers, and after this you'll have 2 thumbs. But we're going to do one hand at a time because I don't want you to fasten off your thumb because we're going to crochet with it. So even though you need to make 2 thumbs, unless you have 2 different things of white, you can go ahead and do that. Just don't fasten off any of your thumbs. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew our fingers together. Only using 2 stitches, so it doesn't really matter what 2 stitches that you use. Just use 2 stitches. That's number 1, and then I'm going to pop over here. Just make sure you're using... Oh, I'm going to pop in a stitch. The same stitches. So you only want to use 2 because they're just fingers. So make a knot by going through your little loop. Cut that off, but leave a thingy. And then we sew this guy to that guy. One of these doesn't need a thing, but I don't know if that's a stitch or not. Oh, and to make a knot. So I got our 3 fingers together. You can just stick these down in here if you don't want them getting in the way. It's not that easy to do, but it's doable. And then this guy we don't even need, so as we're coming, so I've got this hand is for this side, so my thumb is out. Oh yeah, so I can crochet, or I can sew this side. So this is where it gets tricky because you got to do 2 different size hands. Now you could do your hands either way, but it all depends on how you hold it to turn it, because you're going to hold it and it's going to cup like that, right? So I've got this hand with my thumb on this side. I can start crocheting with my thumb over here, but it'll be the way I hold it. So for this hand, because for this guy I just started crocheting with my thumb over here. But I think this side I'm going to do something a little different than I did with my last doll. And I'm going to sew my thumb on over here using 2 stitches. Because that way the cupping of the hand will be normal, per se. Alright. So that'll be my hand. So I gotta make sure I cup it in like this when I'm crocheting and not this way, because then my hand will be backwards. Do you understand what I'm saying? And even as a newbie, I'm pretty sure you know what I mean by cupping. And, you know, just the way you hold it while you crochet around. So I have to cup it this way. So away from me as I crochet. So your first round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. If you did everything right, you should have 24 stitches. So when you do this, you want to use the sew spots. You want to share those spots, but only on the one side. So I'm going to go into my sew spot here. And my sew spot here. And my sew spot here. So because I went to the sew spot here, I'm not going to the sew spot here. (10), (11), and 12 do this corner. And again, I'm going to use the sew spot on this finger, but not this finger. Hi guys, so my camera shut off and filled up. I have 3 cards and all 3 cards were full, so I had to actually stop for a few days and do some editing to make room on my cards to finish this jack. So we just did our 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and I have 24 stitches. So we're going to start decreasing just to kind of make this look like a hand. It'll kind of pull the thumb up a little bit. So our decrease that we're going to do for this round is going to be 4 single crochet decrease. I don't like that stitch marker. So that's number 1. That's 4 single crochets, and then your decrease. So I'm going to do invisible, which is the front loop. So I go through the first front loop, and then I just kind of pop around and go through the second front loop, and then I pull through and pull through. So I'll continue doing this all the way around, and if you have the same numbers as me, you should have 20 stitches when you're done, which means you're going to do this 4 times. So your next round, if I don't lose my voice first, is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. So that's number 1. That's number 2. And then your decrease. So at the end of this row, you should have 15 stitches. So I'm all the way around with my last decrease, and I have an extra stitch. So I'm just going to put my 1 single crochet in there for my 15th stitch. So for the next 7 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 15 stitches. And then we switch to black and we switch to a 4mm hook. So for the next 7 rows, 1 single crochet in each of these 15 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So that's my 7 rows. So we need to put some stuffing in here and pull up on our loop because we're switching hook size. So now we're going to switch to a 4mm G hook. And in this last stitch, we're going to switch to black. So go in and pull up a loop. And you're going to finish that stitch with your black. You can snip off your white. And now with your black, you're going to do 25 rows of the same amount of stitches. So when I was doing mine, I had 16 stitches and not 15. But I'm okay with that because it's only 1 stitch. It's not going to make a great big huge difference. I wrote down 15, so for the next 25 rows with your 4mm, and this is going to be his arm, so we're going to be fastening off at the end of the 25 rows. I will see you on the other side. So that is my 25 rows. These 2 things you can fasten off of, because all we do use is a little sewing tail to tie it to the body. So that's all you need. So I'm going to put my pattern up for the hands and the arms on my screen after I'm done. But before we sew it to the body, there's one more thing that I want to do. I put a rim around this to look like what I did was wrong. I made it look like a glove. It should be black to look like the end of his coat. So you can do that if you want to. It's not necessary. You don't have to. It's just design. It's just a little feature. So before I leave you, you're going to make a slip knot. So you're going to pick up in between the white and the black, you're going to pick up a white post. Oh, sorry. Sometimes when I zoom in really close, I can't find the hole that you're supposed to see through. Anyway, so you find that post. You're going to pull through, and you're going to make a stitch. That's just us reattaching. Go back in, pick up that post again. But before we do that, loosen up your loop that's on your hook. Go back in and grab that post again. Yarn over, pull through, and now this time, and pull up on that loop a bit, we're going to twist. This is called a twisted single crochet, and it'll look like that you have a cuff on your shirt. So go in. Now this is a shared space because that's what I was just working out of. We're going to go back in to grab this next post. And you're going to do the same thing, but before that, make sure you pull up on this loop. Making sure this loop is loose is key. Pull up on the second loop, do your twist, yarn over, pull through. So you're going to do that all the way around. And if you don't pull up on that loop before going in to pick up the post, this one, it's going to be really tight after the twist. So it's super important that you do that. And this will look like that he actually has a cuff to his... It's going to look like clothing instead of your arm just turned black. That's what it's going to look like. So I know with black it's probably hard to see the outcome. So I'll show you. The outcome is what this white is. So it's just going to be in black. So you can do that on both your arms before you before we move on. So anyway, I'm going to put the patterns up on my screen for you to make your other fingers, hands, and arms. You don't have to do it right away. I mean, you can certainly do it. The video is going to end at the leg. I'm making the leg and the arm in this video, and then that's it for chapter 1, because I know how time consuming that these are. Oh, can't get through. So I will leave you to finish your twisted single crochets, and I'll put the pattern up. I won't be putting the twisted single up there because it's just an option. It's not something you have to do. Okie dokie. So, and this is your leg. Let me zoom out a bit. This is going to be your leg for your Jack Skellington. This doesn't actually take as long as it looks like it does. So you're going to start off with a chain 12. And we're using our 4mm for this. We're going to use our 4mm for the rest of the project, I think. I'm pretty sure. The only time I changed it was for the fingers, just to make the fingers smaller. So I want you to do 5 single crochets. And then we're going to do 1/2 double. So yarn over, pull through all 3. In this next stitch, we're going to do 2 half doubles in the same space. So PDF users, you're going to see this written as with a bracket around it. That means the same space. The next stitch is going to get 1/2 double. The next stitch is going to get a double crochet. Pull through 2, pull through 2. The next stitch after that is going to get 2 double crochets in the same space. And then the very last stitch is going to get 6 double crochets in there. And I want you to follow the curve around. That's my 6, and it just kind of starts to go around. There's my slip knot, so I'm going to tighten this. And I know this is black, so it's going to be hard to see. We're going to do the same thing all the way back up. We're going to do it backwards. So this next stitch, that's my slip knot. And I have to get into that stitch right there. And I'm going to put 2 double crochets in there. You don't need to worry about weaving in your tail unless you're okay with it. I'm okay with it, so I'm going to do it. Your next stitch, now it's hard to see your stitches because it is ultimately the chain that we did. So your next stitch is going to be a double crochet. Plus we're using black, so black is hard to work with. But I would just feel your way around with your fingers, that's all I do. Your next stitch is going to be a half double crochet. And then the next stitch after that is going to be 2 half doubles in the same space. Next stitch after that is going to be a half double. And then you're going to do 5 single crochets back to the top. So we're going to use a stitch marker here just so that you can, work along with me. And it might be easier for you. That was just the rest of my tail. So for round 2, we're going to start with 1 single crochet. So we're going to go into this guy right here. Now this is an elongated stitch, so we're going to go into here. And we're going to put a stitch marker. So this here is part of that elongated stitch. You have to pop over to this next one here, and I know it's so hard to see. I'm going to turn my light up a little bit. I can't really go that bright because then it'll be really bright. So this here is not part of the elongated stitch that we're already in. So just make sure that you pop over here for your first stitch. And I want you to put 2 single crochets into this next stitch. And the only reason I did that is because that's an elongated stitch, so it actually would have pulled it over too much, and that's why I put the 2 in there. So, plus I'm increasing. So then I want you to do 2 single crochets, so 1 in each stitch. And then this next stitch, I want you to put 2 single crochets in the same space. Now I want you to do 3 half double crochets. And then this next stitch is going to get 2 half doubles in the same space. And now I want you to do 4 double crochets. Over the next 4 stitches, so right around this top, you're going to do 2 double crochets in each of those stitches. So that's 8 double crochets all together, 2 in each stitch. So now working on this other side, you're going to do 4 double crochets. This next stitch, you're going to put 2 half doubles. In the same space. And then you're going to do 3 half double crochets. Pull it apart to make sure you're getting into the proper stitches. It's not like you're going to stretch it. This next stitch is going to get 2 single crochets in the same space. Then you're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 in each stitch. Then you're going to do 2 single crochets in this next stitch to match the other side. And then 1 single crochet to finish the row. So this is what you should have. Your little foot. That's the beginning. Round 3, you're going to start with 3 single crochets. So that's number 1. Talking with the stitch marker in my mouth. That's number 1. And this is 3 single crochets. Your next stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets in the same space. So we're still increasing them a little bit. And then you're going to do 3 single crochets. Now I want you to do 9 half double crochets. Sorry, my camera shut off. So that's my 9 half doubles. I want you to do 2 double crochets over the course of 2 stitches. So 1 in each. And then again, over the course of the next 4 stitches, I want you to put 2 double crochets in each of those. That's where you should be. And I want you to do 2 double crochets, 1 in each stitch. Oops. Only got part of that piece of yarn. And then I want you to do 9 half doubles. Keep this one loose because you're going from double to half instead from half to double like over here. It will change the look of it. That's my 9. Then you're going to do 3 single crochets. Again, keep this one loose. The next stitch gets 2 single crochets in the same space, and then 3 single crochets to finish the row. So it's all wiggly and squiggly. You should have 46 stitches. So your next round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each of these 46 stitches. You're really going to see it start to roll up. And that's exactly what we want. So you can turn it around the other way if it's more comfortable for you when it starts to roll. So 1 single crochet in each of these 46 stitches. So your next round is going to be to start 17 single crochets. If you don't have 46 stitches, I'm going to state this right now because I know black is difficult to work with, and I also know that you may not entirely have 46 stitches. It's okay. It's okay to be 1 stitch short. It's okay to be 1 stitch ahead. It's okay to be 2 stitches ahead. If you're 10 stitches ahead, there might be a problem. But if you don't have 46 stitches, it's still going to look like a foot. So your next round, like I said, is going to start with 17 single crochets. That's number 1 with the marker. So that's my 17. This is the inside of my foot. I kind of got it flipped around. So we're going to decrease. This is the toe area, so we're going to decrease up here. So I want you to do 2 single crochet decrease 4 times. So that's number 1, number 2, and then a decrease. That's 1 time. That's 2 times. That's 3 times. 1 more time. And I'm doing invisible stitches, so I'm doing them in the front loops only. So I go into the front loop, and then I yoink around and go into the second front loop. I don't yarn over in between. So that's 4 times from a decrease around my toe. So then you should have 13 single crochets back to your marker. Your next round's pretty much the same thing, almost the same thing, but obviously the decrease changes. It's kind of a little different. It's exactly the same as far as these numbers go, so 17 single crochets to start. So that's my 17. So now the decrease we're going to do around is this exact same decrease, 2 single crochet decrease, but we're only going to do it 3 times. That's number 1. That's number 2. That's 3 times, and then 13 single crochets back to your marker. There we go. With the beginning of your foot, it'll look better once it's stuffed. So this one's going to start off a little bit differently. We're going to do 2 single crochet decrease all the way around, but because of our numbers, you're not going to get all the way around. You're going to have 3 extra stitches. So just put 3 single crochets in these extra ones that you have, and this should give you 30 stitches. But two single crochet decrease around should get you 9 times around, and then 3 extra stitches. So I'm all the way back around. I have 3 extra stitches left, so I'm just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those. So I have 30 stitches. Hopefully you have 30 stitches. Your next round is going to be 11 single crochets, so we're going back to decreasing at the toe. And now we're going to do 2 single crochet decrease 3 times. That's 1 time. That's 2 times. That's 3 times. And you should have 7 single crochets back to your marker. So you can start stuffing this, just so you get an idea of the shape. It is starting to get a little squiggly wiggly. So stuff it so that this kind of rolls up like this. That's the whole idea behind the foot, that this part rolls up like that. I mean, as we keep decreasing, it'll naturally do that, but stuff it that way as well, so might be a little bit easier to hold now that we got a little bit of stuffing in there. Alright, I'll worry about some later. So your next round is going to start with 11 single crochets. That's my 11 single crochets. And now I'm going to do 3 single crochet decrease 3 times. I just said that backwards. 3 single crochet decrease 2 times. That's 1, 2, and 3 single crochets, and then we do our decrease. One more time. 1, 2, 3, then our decrease. And you should have 6 single crochets back to your marker. So same thing, 2 single crochet decrease all the way around. You should have 1 extra stitch when you're done. And that'll leave you with 19 stitches. So that's my 6 times around, and then I have 1 extra stitch left, so I should have 19 stitches. So I'm going to finish filling this. Well, not finish, we're still building, but the actual foot part of it, the toe part, area, and this. We're going to be doing 1 more row to take us to a nice even number. And then we're going to be doing our the long part of it. So just make sure that this part of the foot is stuffed pretty good so that you get that shape. And when you do your second piece, you just have to make sure that the feet are actually the same size when you stuff it. So your next round is, we're starting off with a decrease. So decrease these next 2. That should put you right back in the middle of this heel, roughly. And then after this, I just want you to do 1 single crochet. Well, 17 more single crochet. So this just gives you an even number of 18. So 17 single crochets back around to your marker. That's 17. Your next round is just going to be in the front loops only. It's going to be the exact same thing. 1 single crochet in each stitch. But I want you to do it in the front loops only. So all of it is done in the front loop. So I know it's going to be hard to see why we just did that. You might be able to see it here a little bit. So you see how it comes in here a little bit and then it kind of flares out. So it looks like an ankle. That's why we just did that. Even though our numbers didn't change, our numbers are still the same. It looks like it comes in a little bit for an ankle. Anyway, for the next 30 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 18 stitches. Stuff as you go. And if I'm going to put the pattern up, so I'm going to leave you to do 30 rows. I'm going to put the pattern up on the screen, and you'll notice on the bottom it'll say do not fasten off your second leg. And it's super important that you don't fasten off the second leg. So I'm not going to see you again until chapter 2. But all my pause screens will be up with the patterns and everything else that you need on there. And I'll see you in chapter 2. So carry on with your 30 rows. And I'll see you on the other side. Hi guys, welcome back to chapter 2. So I've got my leg all done. Got both my legs all done. So this is where we have to put them together. So I'm not fastened off, I'm still attached. So because my thing is right there, I'm going to put this leg on this side. Because I've pretty much got my tie over here. Anyway, so just get situated. We're going to tie these 2 legs together using 6 stitches. That's what I used on my last one. So that's what I'm going to use on these ones. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. So you can put your feet like this, or you can put your feet like this. Considering he's a very serious dude, I'm just going to put my feet like this. So using just 6 stitches, just try to match up stitch for stitch. Yeah, see when I pull that it turns my foot in, so I know that that's not the stitch I need to be in. Or else I wouldn't turn my foot in. So these feet are great because they do stand up by themselves. All on their own. So just make sure you're going into the right stitch. Yeah, that still turns my foot. Maybe I'm too far up. I don't want my foot to turn.
Every time I make something, I always manage to get one foot turned. Oh, there, that didn't turn my foot. That did straight. So I'm going to do 6 stitches. stitch for stitch. That's 4. Oh, maybe I'm not going to do 6 stitches. I did 6 stitches last time. This is 5, and I think I'm back far enough, so I'm going to come back to the front and put an extra one in the front, and that'll be my 6th stitch. So I'm just going to kind of sew back on myself.
And then I'm going to put my last stitch into this front one to be number 6. I just want my numbers to be the same. This is why I'm very serious about how many stitches I use. So I'm going to come back in. Now it's really tight in here. I'm not just going to make a knot there. I'm going to come back on myself and make a knot to secure all that. There. And you don't have to do all this, but then if you don't, you're going to have a hole in your crotch. But you can just crochet around without tying them together. And then you can just sew up the crotch later if it's easier for you. But I would just say that's just extra steps that you don't need to take. So I'm not a fan of my white fiber fill being all over my black. But that's besides the point. So now that we've got our legs sewn together, your next round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. And we're going to do this for 16 rows because we don't really need to increase because he's built like Slender Man. So there's no making him fat or adding any rows or adding any stitches. So 1 single crochet in the next 16 rows. This is an easy project for me to film because I'm not really counting. 2, 4, 6. So when I get to the spots, I use the shared spaces to put my stitches in. So that's a sew spot I'm using, the stitch. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Again, I'm going to use the shared sew spots. So this is my 16th row. So we just need to stuff it a bit. Now remember, he's not fat. He's super skinny all the way up. Just make sure you're getting into the leg part really, really well. Other than that, he's not a fat fella. So, super duper skinny. That's how I made him. So I like to dig a hole and then I fill the hole. I know I probably tell you guys that a lot, but anyway, don't overstuff them because you certainly don't want to see the white through that. So your next round is going to be 6 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. And your increase is 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. So you should have 32 stitches, and I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 32 stitches. So your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. So that's my sequence. I have 2 extra stitches, which brings me to a count of 38. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. We're sticking to all even numbers. I want a flare and not just a gradual increase. I kind of want a flare for the chest because that's how he's built. So that's why I'm just sticking to even numbers. That's number 1. That's number 2, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. Repeat. So that's the end of my sequence. I have 2 extra stitches just like the row before, and that gives 1 single crochet in each, gives me 50 stitches. So he's flaring out like that because of his chest. So for the next 6 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 50 stitches, and then we're going to sew the arms on. So this is what it should look like. And yes, I know what you're thinking, but it works out to be fine. We gotta stuff this because we gotta sew our arms on. So it'll start looking better once we start stuffing it. But that's what his chest does. All of a sudden he's just poof. And we also have to pretend there's a jacket on this, so we make a jacket later, so we need the space to make the jacket. Because I do all of this stuff. I do all of this stuff, but that's what it looks like. So it doesn't look as bad after it's stuffed. It certainly isn't the easiest thing to stuff, though. So, got mine stuffed a little bit. I think I'm going to sew my arms on. So the thumbs have to be pointing out to the front of his body. So you just got to find the one that has the right straggler on the right side. So, I didn't really write down how many stitches I used, but it certainly is a lot easier to sew when it's laying flat. So just make sure his thumb is pointing to the outside, and make sure you sew his hand on like that. So you don't want it flat, you want it turned. Other than that, There's really no more rules. You just gotta find the spot you need to be in. So I laid him flat, but he's not on the table. Like, I've got him held up just to find the spot. And I know I'm really in your face right now, but I don't know how many stitches I used. I did not write it down. That's 3. Oh, so hard to see. That's 4. I'm gonna say I used 5. Oh gosh, that's thunder. We just have storm after storm after storm. That scared me. I don't know if my camera picked that up. It should have. It was loud enough. So I used 5 stitches. I don't know if I did that on my last doll or not because I didn't write it down. Anyway, go ahead and sew your other arm on. Make sure his thumb is pointing out. That was hard to do on camera. Okie dokie. I have no idea if my arms are in the right spot or not. I always get my arms not in the right spot, so my guys always look like they're turned, but I do know that my thumbs are pointing out. So that's his arms. And if he does have super duper long arms. So we're going to instantly go into a decrease for this next round because we kind of need to pull those arms up into shoulders. So I want you to do a 4 single crochet decrease. Tuck in all my ends. It's getting harder and harder. It's getting taller and taller. So that's number 1. I'm going to use my sew spots just so I have no gapping. That's 4 single crochets. And then my decreases are still in the front loops. So you always have a weird spot where you fastened off. Just do your best to get into that. So using the sew spots, you should have no holes anywhere. So I've made it all the way back around with my sequence, and I have 2 extra stitches left, which puts me at 57 stitches. So for your next round, I just want you to do 1 single crochet in each of these 57 stitches. And if you don't have 57 stitches because you sewed your arms on differently than me, then that's okay. That's perfectly fine. as long as you're doing the sequences and you're decreasing and increasing, and it doesn't matter if your numbers match mine, because you sewed your arms on differently or you sewed your legs on differently, so it's perfectly fine. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and I will see you on the other side. So we're decreasing for the head, so your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. I will give you my counts when I'm done, but again, your numbers could be different because of sewing all the parts on. So 3 single crochet decrease. Number 1. That's 3 single crochets, and then your decrease all the way around. So I'm back around and I have my 2 extra stitches, just like I did for my last one. It'll probably be like that all the way through. And then I have 46 stitches. So your next round, we're jumping right into another round. We're not going to do 1 single crochet in between. We will after this round. So this round's going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease, plus whatever extra stitches you have. And then after that, I want you to follow up. I'll put it on my pause screen. I want you to follow up with 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that's 2. My marker counts as 1. That's 2. And then your decrease. So we can probably stuff this some more, and I need you to stuff, oh, I just got a severe thunderstorm warning. So I need you to stuff these shoulders. Make sure they're stuffed pretty good. If everything all of a sudden goes black, that's because my hydro's been knocked out again, so. May have to cut this video short for today. Anyway, finish stuffing this dude. But try to be easy on this chest so he doesn't end up looking like he's got boobs. Still going to decrease, but so you kind of want it to look like that, like he's just, I know, he's shaped so funny. It's one thing I hate about black. Anyway, finish stuffing the guy. And I will meet you right back here to keep decreasing. And pretty soon we're going to get to white, so we won't have to worry about this black business, because man, it's hard to see. He won't look like he has boobs once we do the vest, or the coat lapels, what do you call them? I don't know. Anyway, your next round is going to be 1 single crochet. I'm really close to the camera now. The 1 single crochet and a decrease, and then followed up by a row of 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So that's my 1 single crochet, and then I jump right into my decrease. Okay, last row. I was picking all this white off. Last row we changed to white. Should have 24 stitches. So we're going to do 1 single crochet decrease. We're going to need to get down to as close as you can, if your numbers don't match mine, as close as you can to 16 stitches. So right now I'm at 24. That's my 1 single crochet. We're just going to do the exact same thing again to bring me down to 16 stitches for his neck. So try to get as close to 16 as you can with your numbers. I'm on my last sequence. So I'm not going to finish this decrease with my black. I'm going to finish it with the white. So I'm going to pull through with my white because we are going to be done with the black until we do our bat. It's going to be all white from here until we do our face parts, but you can cut off your black if you do the same thing I do. If you don't, if you weave, then weave. Don't have to cut off your black. So you should have 16 stitches. Well, you should have 16 stitches. I have 16 stitches. And we're going to do the head. So before we do the head, our neck is 4 rows tall, just because I wanted to put a decent amount of stuffing in the head, and he's just got a long neck, or in the neck, not the head, and he's just got a long neck to begin with. So I did 4 rows of 16 single crochets before I started the head, and the head is going to be 2 stitches in each stitch to start the head. So if you could somewhere in this next 4 rows get to 16, if you're not already at that number, then that would make your life a lot easier moving forward. So the next 4 rows, you're going to do 16 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So happy we're on white now. So make sure you're stuffing this before we start doing the head part. That's my 4 rows. That's what it should look like. That's his neck. So just make sure all this is stuffed properly the way you want it before we start. So our next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch around. It gets pretty squishy, but we need to have a nice round head. And 2 single crochets in each stitch. So that's my 2 single crochets in each stitch around, and we're just going to follow it up with a 1 single crochet in each of what should be 32 stitches. And then we're going to continue to increase after this. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochets and an increase. That's 1 single crochet, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So I have 48 stitches. Again, if your numbers weren't the same, you don't have 48, it's fine. As long as his head looks like this, you're good. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. And this is where we're going to stop the increase, because his head is a large head. But, and technically I should have made it bigger for the doll, but in crochet, unless you're using a wire or whatever, it's going to be wobbly if I made it any bigger. So, and right now, it is kind of wobbly. So I may even put a wire in there. I don't know if it's going to do much good, but it's completely up to you. Mine's not overly wobbly, but it does wobble. So that's your first stitch. There's 2 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So this is what it should look like. It's all wavy, it's all out of shape, it's all squiggly. That's perfect. So for the next 8 rows, you're going to put one single crochet in each of the 64 stitches. I almost said that backwards. Anyway, you know what I mean. It'll be on your screen anyway. So for the next 8 rows, one single crochet in each of these 64 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So this is what you should have. It's pretty funny. It's pretty big. It's pretty sloppy. So I think that's it for chapter 2. It's been a pretty long chapter. We've done a lot. We've done a whole lot. So I think when we come back in chapter 3, obviously we're going to finish doing the head. We're going to start decreasing our head. And then we'll do the face and the bat and the suit part here, and then the white. We're going to build the white. It's just a flat piece that we build. So we'll do that in chapter 3. I'll see you then. So welcome back to chapter 3. So in this chapter we're going to finish the head. We're going to start our decreases. We're going to do the bat. We got to do his lapels with his white chest showing. I'm just assuming that's what it is. And his face. So let's jump right into this. So we're going to start decreasing now. So we're going to do a 2 single crochet decrease. And this will bring you back down to 48 stitches. So that's number 1. That's number 2. And then my decreases are still in the front loops only. And repeat. So each of these rows are going to be followed up by 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that'll also be on my pause screen, and I'll see you on the other side. So I did my 2 single crochet decrease and then my round of 1 single crochet in each of those 48 stitches, and we're going to repeat the exact same thing. 2 single crochet decrease and then another round of 1 single crochet in what will be 36 stitches. So your head probably looks long and, and funny, but if you do that, it doesn't look so bad. It looks like it's the normal size. So I've got some of this 3mm wire. I think it's an 8 or 9 gauge, and that's, I think, I'm actually going to see if I can shove some down the arms and then down the body, so at Halloween I can pose him in different poses, but I'm definitely going to use some for his head. So I'm going to do that probably right now, because we're going to stuff the head and then finish closing it up. So you don't need to do this. This is just something that I'm going to do. I'm probably going to film it just in case you wanted to do it. But so this wire gets cut with scissors. You need some great big industrial scissors to cut it, but you don't need any snips or anything. Like, it's pretty simple to cut with scissors. So I bought this from Amazon. I'll put the link and everything. Oh, not the link, I'll put the picture up on the screen. Mine's a Canadian site, and I know a lot of Canadians that don't watch me, so I know a lot of you are American. So I'm gonna just put the picture, and you can just take a screenshot or whatever and find it on your American site. So it's pretty easy to mold into whatever shape you want. This particular one, if you read the directions, it's actually for making dolls. So, among other things. So, I'm just gonna measure. I just want to go part way up his belly with the leg ones. So I just pinch it off. And then once I kind of get a little pinch in it, it just breaks. So it's pretty easy to work with. So that goes up to about his mid belly. And I put tape around my edges or my ends because I don't want any poking through when it comes to little kitties. I don't want anything poking through, so I just put Gorilla Tape, actually is what it is. You can just use like electrical tape if you wanted to. I used to have electrical tape down here, and I'm not sure what happened to it, but this Gorilla Tape will work fine. I just put a slit in it so it's a lot easier to get around something. And then I'm just gonna stick it down my doll. So, and then that goes the same for every single thing. It's like everything. If I can get it down there, hopefully I can. Stuffing doesn't stop me. If not, I'll just cut it off and use it for the neck. So a lot of people think that this just needs to be down the center of a doll, and it doesn't. It can be anywhere. It can be on the side. Oh, I am getting it right down the leg. Oh, maybe not. It can be, where is it? No, it's bending. It's bending too much, so maybe I'll just use it for the neck. That was a good idea. Now I gotta move all my stuffing back around because it's now gone out of my leg. So, I'm just gonna stuff it down then to about his belly, and I'll just use it for his head. So I'll just bend it on the inside, but it doesn't have to be like when you stuff it. It doesn't have to be right in the middle of something to work. So anyway, start stuffing your neck and head, and make sure if you're not using a wire that this neck needs to be really, really full. So it really needs to be full right all along here. And then just again, just help with how his head stays up. So our next couple of rounds, oh, I gotta get on the other side. We can finish again. You're gonna do get to the right spot. You're going to do another 2 single crochet decrease followed up by a 1 single crochet in each stitch, and this one will bring you down to 27 stitches. The reason I'm just sticking with that is because it's an even number. That's number 1. That's number 2. I don't think I need to keep telling you. So this will bring you down to 27 stitches. Don't forget to follow it up with the 1 single crochet in each stitch row. And then you can probably stuff a little bit more, and we'll keep going. Alright, we're going to change it up. I'm still stuffing mine. So we're going to do a 1 single crochet decrease. And this will bring us down to 18 stitches. And then we're going to follow that up by 1 single crochet. And then we're going to close it. So that's 1 single crochet, and then so we jump right into our decrease. So that's my last round. I'm going to fasten off with a cinching tail. That's probably a little long. Anyway, if you don't like the large hole cinch, which makes it look like that, you can do a smaller one. I prefer the larger one. I think it actually looks neater. It looks a little more cleaned up. So, but you can do whatever you want. If you don't like it, it's fine. So I'm just going to continue to stuff my head before I cinch it. I want to make sure that it's nice and full so my head's not wrinkly on the top. It's a hard head to stuff. So for the cinch, I just make sure it's up around this, so when it gets pulled, there's no wrinklies like a wrinkly head. Not sure where my wire is at this point. Oh, there it is. My wire's kind of over here, but it's okay. Like I said, it doesn't have to be right in the middle. I'm not sure why people think that, but YouTubers actually tell people that, and it's not true. It doesn't have to be in the middle. We do stuff around it, obviously, because you don't want people to feel your wire, but it certainly doesn't have to be in the middle. So once you have it where you want it stuffed, then you're going to go, where is it? I can't see. Go in the front loop of that stitch, and then you're going to go out the front loop of that stitch. So that's what you're going to do all the way around. You can skip one if you want. It doesn't really make a difference. So I think I'm all the way around. It's really hard. The doll is really tall, so I got to show the camera. I can't see what's going on. Anyway, this is where you pull. I know I'm not showing you, but it's very difficult when I can't see what I'm doing. Stuff whatever stuffing's sticking out. So you want to pop across. Let me pull this again. So you want to pop across and then go through this loop to make a knot. Sorry, it's very hard to show you. And then I come up, pop across the other direction, and I go through that loop, which I just about pulled closed, and I make another knot, and that's my cinch. So go down near your knot. We can start to weave. So when you go in, so that's your cinch all together. So when you go in to weave, go as close as you can, like the next stitch over from where you're poked out. That way it just looks like a stitch. And then you can go in different directions. There. All done his head. Nice and round. Build the white part first, because that's a certain size, and then you can just go around it. So I'm going to start with our white, and I want you to chain 8. Let me bring you back down here. This is pretty quick. So chain 8 and do 7 single crochets back up. So chain 1, we're going to turn our work. So I want you to do 3 single crochets, and then in this next stitch we're going to do an increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and then you're going to do 3 single crochets. So this last stitch is that turning over stitch that we love so much. chain 1, turn your work. We're going to do 3 single crochets, and then we're going to do an increase in this next stitch of 2 single crochets in the same space, and then we're going to do 4 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. We're going to do 4 single crochets, then in the next stitch we're going to do our increase, and then we're going to do 4 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. Next row you're going to start with an SC2 tog, which technically is single, well, technically it stands for single crochet 2 together, which is a decrease. So SC2 tog these first 2. So go in and pull up a loop, go into your next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now you're going to do 6 single crochets, and then you're going to SC2 tog again. That's my 6 single crochets, and then these last 2 stitches you're going to SC2 tog. Chain 1, turn your work. Let's do that again. SC2 tog. And now you've got 4 single crochets. That's 4 single crochets, and then you're going to SC2 tog these last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. So now I want you to do 2 single crochets. Then I want you to SC2 tog these next 2. And then do 2 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. And now I just want you to do 1 single crochet in each of these 5 stitches. So this is a stitch right there. So you got to pull this back, get into that. Chain 1, turn your work. So let's SC2 tog the first 2. You're going to do 1 single crochet, and then you're going to SC2 tog these last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. So you're going to SC2 tog these 2, and then 1 single crochet. So now you only have 2 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these. Chain 1, turn your work. And then SC2 tog these last 2 stitches for the point. And then you can fasten off. So this needs a sewing tail because we're going to sew it to him as a shirt or a chest or whatever the heck this is supposed to be, and that's what you should have. So you can tuck this guy away. So the pointy part goes down, and then the white part literally goes up to the white neck, like all the way. Because I think it's supposed to be a chest, but I have no idea. I've never even seen the movie. I know, I'm probably getting a whole lot of curse words at me right now. I have never seen this movie. I know who he is. I know the movie he's from, but I'm not into movies like that, so I have not watched it. I think to me it just would be silly, so. I know, I'm still probably getting cursed at. And that's okay. Over the years, I've had people go, "You've never what?" Yeah, I know. I know. And I'm a fan of Tim Burton. I don't know. It just looks so stupid. I am a fan of Tim Burton. And I'm a fan of Johnny Depp. Not that he's in it, but I don't know. Maybe his voice is. I have no idea. But I don't know. I mean, I like the other movies that Tim Burton have done, but this cartoon Halloween Christmas movie, I don't know. Anyway. There we go. So now we take our black and we make a lapel down so we're gonna reattach it back. You know what? I didn't even check my feet to make sure that I was at the front of my doll before I sewed that on. It's a good thing I was actually at the front of my doll. So flip him over to the back. So this is probably going to be hard to see. I can't come in anymore. I come in with my editing. We're going to reattach just on the white brim here on a post. So I'm holding them the wrong way. So we grab the post, pull through, get that straggler out of the way, and we just make a single crochet. That's us reattaching. Put another one in there because when we come back around, we're gonna need something to get into. So that's what you're gonna do, is pick up each post and you're gonna put a single crochet in there. So follow this around. Hard to see what I'm doing. Keep following the white. Even when you get to this thing that we just sewed on, this shirt. So I'm at the post right next to it. So now I'm gonna need to kind of start coming down sideways. And this is where you just grab wherever you can grab. Now I love when my camera does that. It shuts off right when I'm in the middle of something. So it doesn't really matter where you grab this. Just grab it wherever you can. And it also doesn't matter if you're right butt up against it, because he's black anyway. So it's not like anyone's going to notice if there's a little bit of a space. And we're going to build up either side of this into like coat lapels. So just do the best you can to follow along. Stick in your hook wherever you can stick your hook. So I'm back around. I'm just putting my last one in. Oh my gosh, so much stuffing. So now that we've gone around, this is where I started. I'm going to go into that first stitch that I made. Not the one I reattached with, but the stitch that I actually made. And I'm going to do 3 single crochets. So kind of starting at the top of his shoulder, we're going to do 2 double crochets in each stitch in the next 7 stitches. So that's 2 double crochets in that stitch. You got 6 more to do. So that is 2 double crochets in the next 7 stitches. And now we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the next 3 stitches. So 2 half doubles in the same space. That's number 1. That's 2. That is 3. So we're going big and then we're going down smaller. So now we're going to do 3 single crochets. So that's my 3 single crochets. I want you to single crochet these 2 together, and then I want you to chain 2. I want you to picot, which I can't really show you because and then I go into this next stitch and do another single crochet. So that'll put a point on your middle there. And then you can do 3 single crochets. And that puts a point in the middle, which is hard to see right there. So for the next 2 stitches, I just want you to put 2 half double crochets in each. We're not doing 3 because you don't tend to get as many stitches on this side as you do the other side, and I have no idea why. So for the next 7 stitches, you're going to put 2 double crochets in each stitch. My battery's going to die. My camera's heating up, that's why it keeps going off. So just one single crochet back to where you began before my battery dies. And it looks like I got 3 stitches. So you can just slip stitch into where you came from. Oh, I have 4 stitches. 4 stitches, slip stitch, and fasten off with a weaving tail. So these 2 ends can get tied together in a tight double knot before you weave, and then you just have to weave. There we go. Now we've got his suit lapel. So we're going to do the face and then we'll do the bat. So I got some of this felt. I'm not sure where this was bought. I'm not sure where it's bought, but you need felt. So first I just cut a square, and then I try to do a circle. First I do a bigger circle and work my way down in case I screw it up. And I already did. I already know I screwed it up. And then I basically just fix what where I screwed up. But it's completely up to you. How big your eyes are. Oh, that's way too big. That's what I did for my head. Alright, so you need some glue. I've got some of this clear glue from Amazon. So you just need to decide where you want them. It'll look better once the nose is on. So once this middle part dries, I will go around with a bead on the outside just to get all this stuff down. But mine's really thin, so as you can see, the glue comes through it. So I have to just wait. So we can do the nose and the mouth. You're gonna need a super long piece for this. So the nose is just a couple of slits. The mouth I did for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's between the 6th and 7th row up, but I mean I don't know from the neck area. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I put my mouth right in here. So it doesn't really matter where you come in. It just matters where you come out. So I'm going to come up here. This is the row I did my mouth in, but I'm going to put a little bit of a smirk on him, I think. So he will come down to here and then go back up. So I just need to make sure of the size of mouth that I'm doing. So I already don't like where I started. So I'm going to start maybe further on the eye. So don't pull all the way through. And then I'll come to this side. He's so long. Just make sure you're staying in the right. So I'm going to go down. To do my mouth. So from where I am, this is where I'm going to start making my lines, but I think I'm a little high, or I'm a little low, so I'm just going to pop up one space, and then I'm going to start making my lines. So where you go in is where you want your line to go, and where you pop out is where you want to start the next one. So you kind of got to come down on an angle. So then that line is for there. And then this next one, you're going to go up to where you want it. I did all mine different sizes just to be different. I didn't want his mouth to have all the same lines. I think that would have been boring. So again, just keep going. So you're just going down sideways. So in where you want it to come up, and then out where you are starting your next one. And that's all you do all the way around. Or all the way down, not around. You can put in as many as you want. You don't need to. There's no set thing. So once you're just about to the end, I'm going to pop out and do my last end piece. And then I'm going to scooch across and do my nose from there. Pulled way too hard there. So I want my finished piece to come up about as far as my front piece did. But then I'm going to pop over to where I want the nose to start. So that finishes the mouth. And then we do the nose. So wherever you want your nose to come down. So my nostrils pointed in, but you can point yours out if you want. But I pointed my nostrils in. So I come down to where I want my piece to go. But if you want your piece to go out, you can point out. Yeah, let's point out on this one. So I may want to come up one more to almost between the eyes to come down. So come down here and then pop up to where you want your second one to start, which is preferably the same row. And then he has to come out here. So, and then you can pop out wherever at that point. So if you like your face, you can just keep it. I don't mind my face so much. Move my stuffing around. It's hard to do my face because I have to do everything for the camera, so I can't hardly see what I'm doing. I think I'm going to bring my nose in closer together. Yeah, honestly, I don't like my nose pointing out. I like my nose pointing in. Yeah, I like my nose pointing in, not out. So that's my Jack. I just gotta wait for the eyes to dry. Oh my gosh. It does not want to stick. Okay, I can mess around with my eyes and then I'll meet you back here. You can just cut these two off. I'll meet you back here to do the bat. So we make the bat and then we make the wings for the bat. So they're made separately. It was too difficult to do it all in one piece because I would have had to make, oh, I got glue everywhere. I would have had to make the one wing backwards from the other wing, and then this way you just make the wings the same and sew them on two different ways. So we're gonna make the bat. So start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Oops, starting off great. I just made this whole head and I wasn't even filming. And I just fastened off, so now I gotta do it again. This camera is really irritating some days. Alright, let's do it again. After I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. Okay, let's do this again. You're gonna make a magic ring of 6 single crochets. I can't believe I just filmed all that and I wasn't even filming. So, in your first stitch, you're going to do 1 single crochet, you're going to chain 2, and you're going to picot. That's his chin, that's the bottom of the bat's head. This next stitch is going to get 2 single crochets in the same space. This next stitch, I got glue, we start his ear. So you're going to do 2 single crochets. This is all going into the same space. 2 single crochets, chain 2, and picot. And then 1 single crochet in that same space. That's an ear. This next stitch you're going to slip stitch. Oh my god, I have glue everywhere. This next stitch we're going to make another ear. So you're going to do 2 single crochets. You're going to chain 2 and you're going to picot. And then you're going to put 1 single crochet all in that same space. So there's 2 bad ears. So this last stitch gets 2 single crochets. So you can kind of go into this stitch here and fasten off. Oh, there's a wingtail. I already fastened off. So this is the bottom of the bat head. That's why it's pointy. And then these are the ears of the bat. So you just got to make sure your center is pulled closed. I put eyes on him after, but pull your center closed. Just make a knot. This all gets sewed to Jack anyways, so. pretty tight back here, so you certainly don't have to weave far if you do weave. There's your little bat head. So if you wanted to do the white now, we can. Just take a little bit of white. Put little bat eyes on this. So you can, any color you want, doesn't have to be white. If you want spooky eyes, so just find a hole. Make some eyes. You get the idea. I just left it hanging because, like I said, this all gets sewn to him. So let's do the wings after I blow my nose. We had a big storm last night, and for some reason everything should be kind of tainted. You know, my allergies are acting up, and they shouldn't be acting up because we had a big storm last night, so I don't know why they're acting up. Anyway, we're going to start the wing with chain 15, so now I'm going to start losing my voice. So chain 15. So we're going to do 6 single crochets. That is 6. Then we're going to do 7 half doubles. That's my 7 half doubles. We don't use this last stitch. We're going to leave that hanging. So chain 2 and turn your work. So I'm going to skip this first stitch. Skip this stitch. We're going to go into this one with a half double. We're doing 6 half doubles, not in that same space. 1 each. That is my 6 half doubles, and then I'm going to do 6 singles. Chain 1, turn your work. Now I want you to do 5 singles, and 5 half doubles. Chain 2, turn your work. Skip this first stitch, go into this next one and do 5 half doubles. Then you're going to do 4 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. Now I want you to do 3 single crochets and 4 half doubles. So do you understand how we do a step down, and that's why we didn't use this last stitch? Chain 2, turn your work, skip 1, and into the next stitch you're going to start your 3 half double crochets. And then 3 singles. So, fasten off. You're going to need a sewing tail and a weaving tail. So this end gets tucked away, but you got to be careful. That you don't pull too tight on this part, because we actually want it to stick out. So this whole end over here, the one that's not shaped like a wing, that's your wing by the way, this whole end up here, so we're going to gather the top up. So you're going to go in and out, you're going to weave in and out and in, and you're going to pull that so that it gathers, and then you're going to have to do it again just to kind of keep that gather tight. And then this part gets sewn to the bat head like that, or with the wing up. We can do it. I'm going to do mine with the wing pointing up. Anyway, go ahead and make your second one. I will put my pattern on the screen and I will meet you right back to sew all this together. So I've got my second wing done, I just don't have it gathered yet. So these can go 2 different ways. So you can go, I've got all this dried glue everywhere. Man. So I got my bat, and I'm gonna have my wings go up. So, let's sew on the right one first, one I'm threaded to. So it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna scooch up to the top here. back here I'm just going to grab a little bit of the wing and make a knot. And then you can just weave. So now when it comes time to put your other wing on, you just, because it can go either way, right? So you just flip it around. And that's why I decided to sew on my wings instead of build them onto the head of the bat. I could build this in one piece because I would have had to build one wing backwards. And there was no way I was doing that. So I'm just going to use this to sew to Jack. So I'm going to bring this guy from my bat. I'm just going to bring him through around to the back and cut it off. Just because it's kind of pointless. So I think my eyes are still drying, but so I just attached them kind of like this. I did that. I didn't want to sew these down, so that's all I did, is I kind of just used the bat to go in and out. It's bat head. So I'm going to make sure his bottom of his chin gets sewn in nicely. So I'm just going to pop out the back of my doll. And I'm just going to weave. And then I just want to make a wee little knot. And I know you're going, what the heck are you doing? But I'm just picking up a wee little piece. I'm going to go through the loop. And that is going to be such a small knot. But if somebody starts ripping at my bat, they're not getting it off. And then when I weave again, and I pull, that knot gets sucked right down, so it's not like you can feel it, or like I can't even feel that or see it. So it's the smallest of knots. And now all you have to do is clean off all your fiber fill. And a lint brush doesn't not work before you start doing that. It does not work. But this guy's gonna pick up everything that you do. There. So I got fiber fill all over my face too. It's just white, so you can hardly see it. Anyway, that is it. That was the last of our guy. Now I know I still got pins in here. here, but pull these fuzzies off. Anyway, ignore the pins in my eyes. Here, I'll get my other one so it doesn't look so bad. So my head, putting that wire in there, is, well, look at, I'll hold the two dolls up. They're off the table, and this guy's head's way back, and his head's not. So putting the wire in there really made a huge difference. Huge difference. So anyway, I have to lift his head up. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.